Welcome back to the channel. I've done multiple Nuzlocks in the past with the letter L for all of our encounters, but this time we're going to change up letters, change up games for a new kind of run. I'm going to be playing through Pokemon White version with only S-named Pokemon. Pokemon White was one of the first games I ever got that was on launch date, and it was quite infamous when it was released just because of the interesting designs as well as the lockout of past generations until the post-game, so I think this will make for a very interesting Unova-only run. We start out with Snivy, the grass-type starter, who, of course, begins with the letter S, and he's going to be with us for the entire run, I'm hoping. Maybe did I just jinx myself? It didn't even start yet. Anyway, we do have to go against Bianca and Sharon, who have very simple battles, of course, at this point in the game. Lillipup is the first Pokemon that we're actually able to see that eventually evolves into a letter S Pokemon, but since it's just had so many times being on our teams for the past L-locks, I do still give it its old name of Lute. It's going to hang out for a bit. Inside the next city, we do meet N for the first time, who speaks to Pokemon, I guess? I don't know. Anyway, afterwards, we have a quick fight with Bianca, just a couple of Vine Whips for both her, Lillipup, and Oshawott. This is already feeling like a good run. In the Dream Yard, we are given the gift Panpour as we pick the grass-type starter, and this is going to be essential later on. Of course, since Panpour does not start with the letter S, it's going to have to sit in the box. We find Sharon hanging out inside the trainer school, who, after a couple of tackles thanks to some defense drops, we were able to take out his Tepig as well as his Purloin with a couple of Vine Whips. Upon getting to level 13, Sneck learns Growth, which is going to be essential if we want to stand any chance against Chili and his Pansear. Very scary fight early on without the type advantage, but we start out with Sneck, of course going for a Growth into his first Lillipup. Returns a bite, a couple of bites really, but after a good amount of setup we are able to take out the Lillipup. Pansear starts off with a workup, and since it's a speed tie, our Sneck goes for a tackle before taking a nice Incinerate. We are able to crit on the next turn, letting us get the first badge. Thank goodness we don't have to restart so early on, you know. Back in the Dream Yard we meet Team Plasma for the first time, and on Route 3 we are forced into a double battle. So I bring in Lute, who has Odor Sleuth, as it does have the advantage of giving a new target for the opposing Pokemon, but otherwise the offensive capabilities of Odor Sleuth does not affect the fight, so I think it'll be okay. Sneck does have to fight Sharon one more time after he's gotten his badge, and we see some Odor Sleuth action again, taking out the Tepig as well as the Purloin with new learned Leaf Tornadoes. And up till now, I did not even know it had 95 accuracy. Inside the next cave, we do have to do some more double battles, and inside of Wellspring, we also get the chance to see a Woobat. I haven't used this Pokemon forever, but since it evolves based on happiness, I can get it pretty quickly into a Swoobat. Nice second addition. In front of Nacrene City Gym, we do have to fight N again, and Smooch just does the thing. You know, it goes for a couple of confusions to the Pidove, a pair to the Timple, and then it has one more for Timber, and it's a pretty easy sweep, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know, there's not much else to say about that. Inside the gym, Sneck does get to level 17, which evolves Snivy into a Servine. After our evolution, we also make sure to pick up a Timple, who will also eventually evolve into someone who begins with the letter S. There's just like no encounters in this early game. I'm kind of glad that we have our starter with an S name, but I mean, with that, I think it's time to show Lenora what's really up. A normal type gym leader. It's really similar to the first gym, but I mean, having that Retaliate Watchog in the back can be kind of scary, so I always want to be careful. I start out with our Snake, who sets up a Leech Seed into the Herdier, who just returns a Leer. Leaf Tornado is good for accuracy drops, but I get a crit and the accuracy drop on this Herdier, which makes him miss a takedown, bringing him down to 1 HP. This baits out a Super Potion from Lenora. I have to use another Leaf Tornado, which gets a second crit and a second accuracy drop, and puts him back at 1 HP. Again, it's just deja vu. Herdier misses its takedown, and I switch in my Smooch for free. There we go, that's one down. Heart Stamp, because I want to try and go for a flinch, but Watchog just goes for a Hypnosis that misses. A couple of confusions later, and that's a gym badge. I was not expected to go so smoothly. Team Plasma then steals a Dragon Skull, and inside of the next forest we see Venipede, another Pokemon that will eventually turn into an S-named one. it just takes a little while because everything in Unova evolves at like 50. It doesn't make sense to me. We do have to go through the rest of the forest, getting the skull back, and then making our way to Castelia City, in which, I mean, we had to go across the cool bridge as well as get the stone for Panpour. This is vital to any kind of existence. You know, I love using the monkeys sometimes, but just, it's so annoying that stone evolutions did not learn any kind of moves after evolving. Sharon runs out of the gym, and afterwards, we meet up with a couple of gym leaders to try and rescue Bianca's Muna that has just been robbed, and we meet Getsus for the first time, one of the 7 sages of Team Plasma, but he looks a little scarier than the other ones. He doesn't have a hat, you know, and he has a cool cane. But we do have to go into the bug type gym next. I really do like the honeycombs here, as well as just going through the walls. It's very satisfying, you know, just the physics inside this game. But we have a reliable, fast flying type Pokemon, so I assume we won't have any kind of difficulties in this gym. Smooch starts out with an air cutter, taking Whirlpeed down pretty low and taking a very soft pursuit in return. After a heel turn, we take it out with 2 more confusions. Dwebble is next. Air cutter is enough to get it pretty low, and after taking Smackdown for just about half, we take it out next turn with another air cutter. We outspeed Levanis, and it's 4 times weak to flying, so after that, we get the insect badge. Before we go on to Route 4, fair enough, I Leech Seed Herdier first and get off some growths with our snake, before taking it out with a couple of leaf tornadoes. It's also good enough to take out our falling Muna. And I want to go ahead and try to stall with our snake into the Panseer. I mean, it works out because he's 6 levels under us, and there's, I don't know, our Leech Seed recovery, we can even fall asleep inside of the fight and still be fine against a Pokemon that has a super effectiveness over us. You know, that's the type advantage is crazy. But Snake is able to take out the Duat as well with a Leaf Tornado Mega Drain combo. Inside the next route, we pick up a Pokemon I've never used in a game before, Scraggy. And I was honestly kind of excited to use it. I mean, the Dark and Fighting type was unique to this Pokemon until, of course, Pangoro in the future. But seeing this little guy, it's always been filler to me. And I wanted to try to be open about how much this Pokemon would bring for me, you know, because you never know. Sharon wants to fight us inside the route, of course, and starts out with a Pidove. I didn't think he'd start with a Pidove, and he gets a really mean air cutter crit. That was kind of lame. Smooch is able to take out the Pignite with a couple of air cutters of its own. Of course, we have to pop a citrus berry from our enemy so that we can actually win this encounter. I do some more stall shenanigans against another monkey. You know, this is just very normal work for our snake. And then last is Liepard, who is taken out very fast. Speaking of filler, we do have an encounter with a Sigilif inside of the Desert Resort, which makes for our second Psychic and Flying type Pokemon. If I had a nickel for every Psychic and Flying type Pokemon on our team, I'd only have 2 nickels. I'm not going to buy a lot, but it is weird that I have 2 of them. Anyway, we are adding secrets onto the team. Sandile is waiting for us inside of the Relic Castle as well, a very good pickup before the Electric type gym. And then as we get to Nimbasa, we go and take a nice carousel ride before battling N with basically the same team that we currently have. Snake leads, and into the Sandile, it just takes a couple of seconds to take it out with Leaf Tornadoes. We use Sigilif against their Darimaka. A couple of side beams is more than enough to take it out, and Hustle sucks as an ability. Scraggy falls to 1 air cutter, and our guy Secrets is still going through the whole team. It's certainly proving its worth, but still hasn't gained my respect yet. Thanks to a Whirlwind, Swoobat switches in and proves that it is the better Psychic and Flying type. Swadloon is found in Lost Thorn Forest, and this is another Pokemon that we've used before inside the L-Lock. Of course, it can evolve, but I mean, it's cute. And now it's time for Elisa. We want to go through the strategy using our Flying type and our Ground type to try and bait out all the Volt switches, as well as using Intimidate so that the Aerial Aces and Quick Attacks don't really do anything to our Ground type when we switch it back in. So we switch around for a while between Secrets and Stinky until I feel a little bit more comfortable for Stinky to try and use some returns to try and take out the Emolga. And for a while, the strategy is actually working pretty well. I do have a little bit more comfort, so I start to use returns into Stinky as it doesn't have any kind of rock moves at this point in the game. And after a few, we are baited out all of Elisa's hyper potions, and just a few more returns takes out the first. We are getting kind of low in health though, as Sigalith takes a crit aerial ace, and we're running out of bait HP for Volt Switches. Luckily, we also have Swoobat, who can also bait in Volt Switch, so we're still inside of an okay spot for now. Stinky does get a little bit low though, so I decide to switch in our snake for a little bit here to set up a leech seed and stall a little bit more. Maybe we'll be able to get some HP back so that we can live for a little bit longer, but instead he Volt Switches on our snake into Zebstrika. I'm just setting up growths at this time, so after the first turn taking a spark and doing over half of Leaf Tornado, I feel a little bit more comfortable, and Servine is able to take out the horse. Very good deal. I mean, I'll take it. It's a little early, but whatever. I don't have a lot of HP on people who could actually live a hit, so I switch in Swoobat on an aerial ace before trying to get more Volt Switch baits. Right back to our bread and butter. If it's working, then don't fix it. Not broken, don't fix it. That's what they say. I use Scraggy for some HP as we're starting to get a little bit low here, and I think it's time for Luscious to go. I mean, I didn't really have a plan for using this guy inside the long term, and it just turned to be the perfect bait. I use Stinky on some more switches, of course, with Swoobat, trying to get all the Volt Switches out from Emolga. It gets another critical hit aerial ace, taking out my Swoobat. It's so unfair. I wish I did something different there. Aerial ace hits again on Stinky and also gets a crit. He lost 3 Pokemon in this fight so far. Scraggy's able, with Black Glass's boost, take out the Emolga with a payback. But gosh, man, 3 Pokemon in one fight? That is so tough. And gosh, the first deaths, of course, it has to be something dramatic, and it has to be a bunch all at once. It really hurts, but it's gonna be okay. We went out with the best of the best. It's time to fill in some spots on our team, though. We evolve Whirlipede into Scolipede, as well as Panpour into Simipour. Back to 5 Pokemon. I thought we were gonna actually have a good amount of fun this time, but we battle Sharon after getting our 4th gym badge. Brick Break is more than enough to OHKO his Purloin. We use secrets into the Tranquil, setting up some light screens and taking out with a couple of side beams and air cutters. Good deal. It's not that hard to take it out. Pansage comes in next, who dies to 1 air cutter, and we use our new Simipour to switch into a Flame Charge from his Big Knight, which takes it out in 1 hit of Scald. This is kind of why I was waiting for level 31. On Route 5, we are also able to find Telosis. Now we're back to 6 Pokemon again. Look at this cutie pie. I used this in my first Pokemon White run through as well. I like the really slow special attacker. It's cute. It's a cell. Welcome. And the kicker, it has hidden power fighting. On Driftvale City Bridge, we have another encounter to pick up. Another Pokemon that I've never used, since I always use water-type starters in the form of Ducklet. Ducklet eventually evolves into a Swanna, so it will hang out in the box for a little bit as well. Inside of Driftvale City, Clay is a little bit mad, but it's only because Team Plasma is hanging out inside of his own city. He doesn't have the workers inside of the facility take him out, but we have to go and beat the 4 grunts ourselves, Trust a 10-year-old to do all of the public aid actions. Why not? Gets us also Strong Arms, the gym leader, since he's got the backbone of a worm, and gives up the sage as well as the hostages that were kind of taken. It's a little sad, but we gotta teach him what's right now. Clay leads with a Krokorok, who I work up into. He wants to Swagger on the first turn, but thanks to a held Prison Berry, I am able to snap out of confusion instantly. With just a singular Scald, we are able to take out the Croc. Excadrillos next uses a Hone Claws, and I use my monkey for another Scald that OHKOs the mole. I never do that in runs. Since I'm +3, Acrobatics is more than enough to take out the Palpitoad, giving me the Mining Badge. Before getting to the next route, we have to fight Bianca once again. This is okay though. We do start out with Scraggy into her Herdier, and getting a nice Brick Break to take it low. It doesn't take itself out with recoil damage from Takedown, however, so we do have to stall out some heal turns, doing more Brick Breaks until actually getting a critical hit, taking out the dog. We switch into our Snake for the Otter, who gets an accuracy drop, and after missing a Revenge, it falls to a second Leaf Tornado. We use our monkey to beat up her monkey, as well as the sleeping tapir, who dies to a combination of Scald and Acrobatics. Give me a victory. There's another encounter that we can get here in the form of Deerling, another Pokemon that I use inside of my initial Pokemon White run. This is very interesting that I got so many Pokemon that I used to use. Inside a Chargestone Cave, Clay blocks out the way, and finally we are going through a Team Plasma Gauntlet. There's about 7 or so trainers that we have to beat up at the end of Chargestone Cave, which is a little bit annoying, but most of it is just Sag going through everybody. And is waiting for us at the end of the cave, however, and it's time for another battle versus him. Brick Break is pretty good into Boldore, of course, getting it down to just about 20% as it just uses Iron Defense and dies next turn. Bug Bite from the Joltik is very weak, but Payback with the black glasses is way more than enough to take it out. I use Brick Break on the Falling Ferocity, who does an Iron Barbs, but of course that's still fine for Sag. And then after another Brick Break, we were able to take out the Clink. Look at that. I didn't think Scrafty, or Scraggy, I should say, is over here getting crits and sweeps and such. At the next gym, City, we are able to evolve into Stoutland with our newer level cap. Run to a stupid triple battle, ring the bell so that Skyla can give us the attention that we need, because I really do like Pokemon battles. We also evolve Ducklet into a Swanna since it evolves at level 35. With that, we are ready to beat up the flying type gym leader Skyla. We start off a Gangster Swoop out with Lute, who is able to go ahead and use a good crunch on her, getting a very, very nice amount of damage before taking out the next turns with a critical hit. Onfazant starts off with a Razor Wind, but it doesn't really do too much damage to me, and Stoutland is able to take it pretty low with a couple of returns. After wasting a Hyper Potion, it gets a critical hit return, taking it back to the red, and I get flinched by Air Slash, sadly. Our guy, Secrets, is able to set up a light screen onto a Razor Wind turn, and after taking a quick attack, we are able to take out the Onfazant with a Psybeam. Play a little bit greedy here after getting Swanna to just over half, going for a Psybeam, as it just uses Aqua Ring in my face, and with this Psybeam, of course I get a critical hit, and then he gets the next gym badge. Going up to Twist Mountain, we have another fight versus Sharon. Woohoo! I haven't seen this guy in a little minute. Sadly, I lead the wrong Pokemon into his Onfazant, so I have to bring in Stoutland for... There's a little bit of stall. It's really the best thing I have into the bird at the moment. There's not much else that I should do, but it just trades a couple of Air Slashes and Taunts into the dog. My returns are a little bit too much for the bird, so I do end up taking it out. Next comes in Pignite, and Swanna is the perfect counter for the fire and fighting type with its own water and flying type, and with a singular Air Slash, no crit, it takes out the pig. That's kind of scary. I do stay in versus the Simisage, which is probably pretty dumb as it almost kills with a Seed Bomb, but after getting it somewhat low, I switch into our Scolipede, who is able to take it out with a Bug Bite. Liepard is next. I protect for a fake out turn and attack the next turn, stealing its Stitcher's Berry, which is pretty cool, I guess. But we are able to take out the cat with our big bug. I wish there was more to do in Twist Mountain, but we just kind of skipped through everything and see some grunts before having to go to the 7th gym. This is the Ice type gym, and Sag is here ready to go with just a bunch of Brick Breaks. It's able to go through basically every trainer without a hitch. Inside of the last trainer, of course, we get up to level 39, the level cap, as well as the evolution level for Scraggy. Now it is time to beat up Bryson. Starts out with a Frost Breath with its Vanillish, and it's always crits, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. Brick Break is able to do good damage, get a crit, and take out the Ice Cream Cone. We take a crit Icicle Crash from the Bear Trick, living on nothing, and taking it out with a high jump kick. We have to switch, of course, since we're at 3 HP. Cryogonal just has Frost Breath for our guy, so after a couple of those and some nasty returns onto the Cryogonal, even with our attack drops thanks to Aurora Beam, Lute is able to take out the Snowflake, giving us the Icicle Badge. Like most Pokemon games, after the 7th gym, we actually have to fight the evil team for a little bit. Shadow Triad can wait though, as I finally evolve our starter into a Superior, who might be able to help us out for a little bit. There's also 2 more encounters that we can get inside the game. The first is Shelmet inside of Icarus City, who I named Soprano, as well as Route 8 for a Stunfisk. Obviously, I've never used this Pokemon before, but the electric and ground typing can prove to be pretty useful with the extra immunities and resistances that it gains. We'll see. Climbing up Dragon Spiral Tower does get us into more Team Plasma Gauntlets, which is handled pretty easily by our Simipour and Scolipede. I'm not going to complain at all by their performance because they've been doing great. We also meet the big white dragon for the first time as N gets scooped away, and by going to Relic Castle we also find some more context clues for how are we going to defeat N in Team Plasma, because I mean that is a very big scary dragon from ancient times that people do not know how to deal with, and you know the situation in itself is pretty fair. I'll give him that much, but of course everything has to line up the correct way, and just sitting inside a Nacrene City gym, the museum, is the Dark Stone. Man, do I like plot armor. Well, it's time for another fight versus Bianca. She leads off with Stoutland, and Intimidate is a really good ability, so it sets up a workup in our face, and Scrafty is able to take it pretty low with a Brick Break. Of course, this just gets her in heal range, and after using 3 different Hyper Potions, we are finally able to take out the dog. Jeez. Superior is finally able to make an appearance, taking out the Samurott inside of a pair of Leaf Blades. You know, finally able to actually use my starter again after so long. Simisear is next, and I use our new ugly fish to try and take it out. And then Musharna is last, who is taken out by a couple of Scalds from our Simipour. We see gets us on the bridge, threatening us to say, hey, it is time to go and fight, as he does some more propagandizing or whatever the heck he's doing. After getting a history lesson, it is time to round out the team for preparations on the 8th gym, including getting Seismitoad on our team. Also, I didn't realize how hard Druddigans are to kill. Like, these guys are a lot stronger than they should be. Iris is up next. We use Steamroller into a Fracture, who flinches on the first turn. Good deal for me. I try to get a little bit greedy for Poison and use Poison Tail into the Fracture, as it just sets up Dragon Dance in my face. The next Poison Tail also doesn't kill, and it uses a second Dragon Dance. Now it's at +2, so I use a Bulldoze afterwards to try and mitigate what's going on, but I am able to overpower the dragon. Druddigan comes in next, and Dragon Tails out my Scolipede, of course getting a critical hit, and Soldier is brought in. I'm trying to go for a paralysis here on the Druddigan, as it is a sheer force guy, and using Mud Bomb to try and lower accuracy as well. I'm way too bulky though, so I'm able to take a good beating from the Druddigan, eventually getting the paralysis I was looking for from Discharge. This also gets a potion off, and since I had the free turn, I was like, hey, what the heck, I'll go for Mud Bomb. Seismitoad comes in next, who obviously doesn't have a good strength against it, but it does have Swift Swim, so I set up a Rain Dance and an Aqua Ring into the Druddigan so that I can try and get something going off here. Mudshot is my best move at the moment, so I just use that into the Druddigan, who does decent damage with its Night Slashes and Revenges. It gets pretty scary, Seismitoad getting to 3 HP at one point, but I am able to take out the dragon. I have no other chance of making it out of this alive, so I cut my losses with Seismitoad and let Haxorus take it out. Sad to see it go so soon, it only fought in one fight. Dragon Dance is used next, and I was expecting an attacking move, so I just went for Payback, but he goes for Dragon Dance again at like no HP, so Payback is able to take out the Haxorus. And with that, we get the 8th gym badge. Now we're ready to go against the Elite Four and try and stop N from doing bad things. We pick up the Master Ball, and Sharon wants to battle us one more time. I get a safe swap for Un Faisant, and Soldier just goes for a Discharge. It does pretty nice damage to the bird. I flinch next turn because of an Air Slash, but on the 3rd I am able to take it out. Simisage is easy work for our Scolipede. With Steamroller we get a flinch, and on the next turn we just take it out. Simipour takes a flamethrower from his Emboar before going for about 2/3 into him with a Scald. Misses takedown, so I'm able to take out the Emboar on the next turn. Liepard just goes for a taunt, but Steamroller is pretty good into the cat, so after using 2 of them, I am able to take out Sharon's last Pokemon. That's it for the rivals for now, I'm pretty sure. Our final obstacle is just going through Victory Road. There's not really a lot that happens inside of this Victory Road though, but I like the insect badge path here. I mean, this guy who wants to not slide off a hill, but we finally make it to the Pokemon League, the pinnacle that all trainers aspire for. And with this somewhat weird team, we are ready. We go versus Marshall first, the fighting type Elite Four member. All of them have 4 members, so that's good to know. I go for an interesting strat. Instead of using our Psychic and Flying type, I use our Grass type. I start out with a Leech Seed into the throw, who gets a kind of mean Stone Edge off as it crits. Giga Drain is able to get our recovery inside of a good spot before it uses Bulldoze instead of Stone Edge. Good deal. I use Growth on the next turn as I am now in a healthier spot, and Stone Edge does decent damage, doesn't crit, so we're still in a good spot. After Giga Drain, we are able to take out Throw. Mienshao comes in next. After doing a jump kick into us, we get a crit with our Giga Drain, taking it out in 1 hit. Sock comes in third. We use Leech Seed so that we can break Sturdy, as well as using a Giga Drain on the subsequent turn so that we can get some good recovery back. It baits out a heal from Marshall, so after it uses Stone Edge and misses, we are able to take it out with a Leaf Stone. We're able to take it out with a Leaf Blade. Conkeldurr is last. I set up Leech Seed once again as it is slower, and abuse the special defense lacking Pokemon. It's not so smart, so I guess that's why Mind Defense goes numb. I don't know how special and physical are supposed to be, but its Hammer Arms are not enough to OHKO without a crit, and there's nothing I'm going to switch into this thing. So after using some more Giga Drains, I'd end off the fight with a lucky Leaf Blade, and that is 1 of 4 down. Deja Vu, I start out with our Snake again, who goes for Leech Seed, but I forget that this guy has Magic Guard and will not be affected as he gets a critical hit Psychic into me. What the hell is that? Focus Blast hits our Sigilyph, and I use Light Screen on the next turn as it misses Thunder. I do have Shadow Ball, luckily, but it doesn't really do too much to Reuniclus, and after a couple of trades, we get so close, but it lives on 1 HP from a Shadow Ball and takes out our Sigilyph. It's way too early to lose a Pokemon in the Elite Four. It's only the second trainer, you know? It's just tough. I am able to follow up with Scrafty since Caitlyn is going to heal this turn with a Crunch, which does pretty decent damage, almost taking it out, getting another heal potion. And thanks to the defense drop, we are able to take out the cells. Air Slash comes my way, and luckily we don't get a crit or a flinch, and Sigilyph faints to 1 single crunch. Lute comes in next for the Gothitelle, who starts up with a Calm Mind. Oh no. Crunch goes through from Lute and gets a defense drop, so I should be able to kill it next turn, as Gothitelle hits a nasty Psychic. And I low roll. Of course I low roll. There goes Lute as well. We lose 2 Pokemon to Caitlyn. This is tough. This is real tough. That's unfair. It should have died. Okay, that's twice in this fight that Pokemon lived on 1 HP. Whatever. We're able to take it out next turn with a Scald, and after a few more switches through both Soldier and Silly, we are able to take out the last Musharna as well with just discharges and different Scalds and acrobatics. It takes a little bit because it's a little bulky, but there goes trainer number 2. I wasn't as worried for Grimsley, but I still am now because we are down 2 Pokemon. Getting a Sand Attack into our high jump kick, still connecting into Scrafty is huge though, so we're able to take out a full restore use. Soldier really does try against the Scrafty, but it's not really offensively there, you know. If it had a type advantage, maybe. So Simipour ends up switching in, taking a mean crunch before taking out the Scrafty. Crocodile is next, and the best thing I have for it is Scald, so I go for it, not thinking about ranges or anything, and I get a lucky burn. The burn is the only thing that saved my Simipour here, living on 13 HP because of it. B-Sharp is next, and it goes for a Night Slash, but since we have Scrafty, we're able to just switch in and eat it up for breakfast. Brick Break is able to OHKO the Night. Fake Out comes in from Liepard, but we just do our normal grass starter things, you know. We Leech Seed, we take a nasty Aerial Ace. My whole priority right now is just to play safe because everybody is low inside of this fight. I only have 4 Pokemon, but Grimsley is baited down into using another full restore, and after almost losing our Stunfisk, we are able to get pretty good damage off with the Thunderbolt. But after just some turns of switching around. Leech Seed is still enough to take out the cat. After losing 2 Pokemon to Caitlyn, I was starting to lose hope here and thinking I would need to have a reset, but Chantal proves that it is unnecessary. Crunch crits the mummy, and Golett goes for Curse for some reason, taking it out in 1 turn. Chandelure kind of sucks here, and it dies to 2 Scalds from my Simipour, and I just switch in Superior into the Gilicent, who dies to a critical hit Leaf Blade, and that's the Elite Four somehow. We've actually made it out. We have to organize our team one more time for the final showdowns of the run. Reshiram makes an appearance into the Pokemon League, and his aura is strong enough to just make Zekrom want to spawn in. I mean, he just wakes up from the Darkstone. Good for him, I guess. I'm not playing these games though, so I throw a Master Ball, and it is time to beat up N for one more final showdown. I start out with Skyla, who takes a good Fusion Flare, but I'm looking to bait Hyper Beam, so I'm actually going to be roosting here for a little bit. Hyper Beam does come out from Reshiram, who, activates my Citrus Berry, and with Roost, I'm back to full. Good deal for me. I go for a Fly as I want to try and install as much power points from the Reshiram as possible, but it really does no kind of damage. After taking an extra Sensory, I use Roost again with Skyla. Extra Sensory again, I go for an Air Slash this time, but it goes for Hyper Beam when I'm somewhat low, taking out my bird. He has to recharge, so I get a free High Jump Kick. High Jump Kick on the next turn does a critical hit, it's huge! Hyper Beam misses after that, taking out the Reshiram with the Brick Break. Click-Clang comes in, well, Click-Clang in quotes, and my Scolipede switches in to the Zoroark using a Steamroller before dying to a Flamethrower. I thought I could live a little bit longer. Focus Blast comes from Zoroark, and my Scrafty is able to hang on. Brick Break is able to take out the Fox. The real Click-Clang comes in next, and since I just love clicking High Jump Kick connects into the Click-Clang as well as the Vanillix after it misses a Blizzard. I switch into Soldier to take out the Archeops as it has Defeatist, and since my Stunfisk is bulky enough and able to get it under half, it will have half its output. After the Prehistoric Bird falls, the Prehistoric Turtle comes in, and Shark 6 makes his first ever appearance inside the run, of course inside the last couple of battles in the game. After crit Horn Leech, we avoid a Stone Edge and take out the turtle in the next fight, defeating N. Just one more fight to go, and it's versus Getsis, the Manipulator. Because of a free heal, we are in slightly an awkward position as Skyla was the first Pokemon we led with, so we are forced into switching into a Pokemon that is actually viable and alive. Cofagrigus uses a Toxic onto us after getting a Leech Seed off, thank goodness. Crunch is able to get Cofagrigus low, and we take the Mummy ability from it before forcing Getsis to heal. We also do some switch shenanigans as it only has Shadow Ball and Psychic. Psychic is immune for Scrafty, and Shadow Ball can't touch our car, so we are able to switch around for a little bit, taking out the Cofagrigus. We need a safe swap, however, so it's time to say goodbye to the Shark 6. Hydreigon misses Focus Blast, but I miss High Jump Kick, getting us very low to the red. High Jump Kick connects on the next turn as he misses another Focus Blast, and I get to take out the Hydreigon with a Brick Break. I outspeed the Bouffalant, getting a good High Jump Kick off there as well. Oh my gosh, Scrafty has to die to poison. It's so sad. But there's 3 Pokemon versus my 2. We actually have a chance, and Scrafty really made this possible. Seismitoad falls to a single Leaf Blade. I get Leech Seed off onto Electros, who hits back with a nasty Flamethrower, but we were able to stall out with our ground and electric versus his electric type, using a couple of surfs, as well as getting back into our snake for just securing the victory over the Electros. Lastly is B-Sharp, who I set up Leech Seed into, and after dodging a move from it, I just go for a Leaf Blade as it's the strongest thing I can do, and X-Scissor takes out my snake the next turn. Finally, uses Night Slash. Soldier connects with the 4 times effective Revenge, and we win the run. Oh my gosh, I'm appalled. I did not think that this little thing would actually be useful, but here we are bringing it to the Elite Four, beating N, defeating Team Plasma, and winning the lock. If you guys enjoyed this kind of video, please let me know down below, as this was way too fun to do, and I'm going to do more letters and more games in the future. Farewell.